I'm Steve Gilman, and this is Brand Story, where we help you build stronger, more sustainable brands by sharing insightful conversations with brand leaders, marketers, and professional storytellers. My guest today is Phyllis Rothschild.
Too much loyalty, whether it is formal programs like loyalty clubs and loyalty programs, or even just informal loyalty driving efforts, rely too heavily on sort of a price transaction as opposed to truly understanding what it is and why consumers make the choices they make, and then building out rewards and recognition and experiences that solidify that loyalty over time.
Phyllis is the Chief Marketing Officer at Pete & Gerry's Organics and spent decades in the consulting space with many years at McKinsey, leading their brand and loyalty practice, before making the move to becoming the CMO at Pete & Gerry's, one of the top organic egg brands. And at Pete & Gerry's, she's helping redefine what it means to grow a modern food brand, one that stays true to its values. Hi, Phyllis. Welcome to Brand Story.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I feel like I'm with you. I think you're in your home office right now, and it's great. That's cool. I think we have a place in common. Are you in Massachusetts right now?
I am. I'm in
What
Carlisle.
part? Carlisle? Yeah, I grew up in Massachusetts, like around Framingham.
Okay, not too far.
No, probably south of you, I think, somewhere around there. Southwest, maybe. Yeah. So Pete & Gerry's is in southern Vermont, right?
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have a headquarters in New Hampshire, as well as a large packaging and processing facility in northern New Hampshire, in Monroe.
That's great. Yeah, well, I love the brand. I'm a fan. I eat Earl's eggs all the time. I had them for breakfast today, so I think we'll have a lot of fun talking.
Awesome. Well, we love brand fans.
Yeah, I'm a huge brand fan. We love your eggs. So I wanted to start just kind of like talking a little bit about like your early years. I find it fascinating. You were at McKinsey, and I'm sure had a front row seat to like some of the biggest brands and the work you did there. What can you just kind of unpack that work and how that ended up with you like deciding to be a CMO at a food brand like Pete & Gerry's?
Yeah, thank you. I love that question. I started in consulting, and the thing that always intrigued me the most in our strategy work, even when I was doing growth strategy and less emphasis on branding and marketing, it was always the notion of what made customers want to buy these products or services or experiences from brands. And so that led me to a path of being really fascinated by brand strategy and brand science, even, if you will. So for me, it was just one of that sort of constant thread, no matter which company I was working with, whether it was in, large B2B environments or even more of the food and beverage space, which is really where my passion lies, was to just understand how a brand could help influence the decision process and what role it played in someone's loyalty to a product. And so for me, it was always just an exciting part to unlock that sort of equation for the consumer. And so when I started to explore opportunities and, as my career in consulting evolved, I always knew that going further down the path of branding and marketing was going to be the thing that got me excited about the work I was doing. It's hard to be in consulting for 30 years and keep yourself sort of fired up about what you're doing. So when I started honing in on the branding and marketing space and then getting the chance to lead that at McKinsey, specifically with the loyalty practice, really that it's like the essence of it, right? Like really what drives loyalty for consumers. So when I was looking for new opportunities, it was always clear in my mind that I wanted to get into a CMO role and get behind a brand that still had opportunity for growth. That's something that I could take everything I'd learned all those years and see if I could actually make it happen.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I think, having worked in consulting for years, I think when you get to really sink your teeth into helping a brand grow and spend the kind of time I'm sure you are on just those specific products and that specific brand, it's really a gift. You're not being pulled in a million directions. So with your time and your career, is there a through line for you that connects all of your brand work? Is there any kind of red thread for you that really just speaks to all the brand work that you've done and that you brought with you to Pete & Gerry's?
I think that it is really honing in on who your target consumer is, or customer in this case, and really thinking about how am I going to use that consumer, that persona, if you will, as a muse for what my brand stands for. Because if you try to be all things to all people, even if you're a large, Fortune 100 brand, which I had
Yeah.
worked on plenty of them, then it just gets kind of lost and you end up being sort of plain vanilla and nobody really knows what you stand for or what the brand means. So it's that really knowing who you're relevant to and why it matters to them, and then building your entire brand story around that topic, around that piece of insight. That to me is the through line, and that is applies no matter which category you're playing in. It doesn't mean that there aren't, if you have multiple products, and in our case, we have two brands. We have Pete
Yeah.
and Gerry's and Nellie's Free Range. Um, it means there may be some nuances and changes and adjustments to the consumer and who that is, but you have to make sure you understand why they're purchasing you and then have that your brand speak to that.
Yeah. It amazes me how few people understand how crucial that is to the success of a brand. Like, there's nothing more important than truly understanding who's buying from you and who your audience is and how you're making them feel about their purchase, because that's where the loyalty lies.
Absolutely. Nothing drives me more crazy when I see what I call brand whiplash, where they're just kind of like, oh, this is the theme of the day, or, this is the hot celebrity, or this
Yeah.
is the trend that I'm seeing. And so the brand just swerves and, starts speaking to that, even whether it's relevant to what their core positioning is or not. And so with Pete and Jerry's, we try really hard. My team and I try really hard to say, is that on brand? Is it on message? How will our consumers, our target consumers, our loyal fans feel about that if we were to go and speak about it?
Yeah. Good for you all, because it definitely shows, because you all are so consistent and all your messaging is so strong and so on brand. And that's one of the reasons I was really looking forward to talking to you. I think
Thank
it's
you.
so cool that you ended up in a mission driven company like Pete and Jerry's. So how do you keep that, like, while you're really thinking about the target consumer and keeping her or him front of mind for your entire team? How do you keep that mission like front and center for you, for your team and for your consumers?
Yeah. Well, the good news is that our target consumer cares about our mission.
Yeah,
So it
that
doesn't
helps.
feel unnatural. It doesn't feel unnatural for us. Our mission overall is we were first to do it better, still doing it best, uh, committed to animal welfare, small family farms, and one another. And that really resonates with our consumer target. And so everything we talk about, we're emphasizing hen welfare. The fact that we were the first certified humane egg producer, we were the first B Corp certified
Yeah.
egg producer. I mean, these things it's our language and our message. It stands on proof points and evidence. That's what allows us to be really authentic in talking about our mission and our purpose, because we're actually living it and doing it each day. Our hens get tons of room outdoors to roam and eat bugs and worms. Our farmers stay in business and are able to take care of their families and have good relationships with each. We have over 300 family farms that we partner with exclusively across the country. And they are able to thrive because of our partnership with them. And then, everything we do is about ensuring that our consumers get the highest quality product as well. So we can stand behind it, which makes it feel very natural and sort of
Yeah.
organic, if you will,
Yeah,
for us.
it does help that it's so integrated into what you do and so true. I think
Right.
in the
Right.
organic space, there are certainly a lot of people who like to use the word or slap on the clothes of really mission driven brand, and it's not quite as authentic as it is with you all. And I think the brands that are truly authentic in this space stand above the rest because it resonates so much. So I think that's something that is a real strength with you all, is, the egg category and really any CPG category can be kind of commoditized. So I know you all know that. because that's what you're working in and working with. But how do you make sure the Pete and Gerry story stands out in that? Because that's quite a headwind, being something that a lot of people just think of as a commodity.
Yeah, so it's very easy to fall into the trap of an egg is an egg is an egg.
Yeah, right.
And, at its essence, if you were to sit here and take it apart, and dissect an egg, you wouldn't find that much differentiation. But in the premium egg space, we really do try to emphasize aspects of how that egg is produced. So the how matters just as much, if not more, than the what. So that's a lot of what we talk about is the fact that, all of our hens are free range or pasture raised, our organic farms are fed organic feed and have access to the outdoors where they're eating bugs and worms and living the life of a true organic animal. And so I think it's to your point, really making sure that we don't downplay that differentiation, that we don't fall into the we're all just eggs. We actually send those messages very clearly and simply. You're right, it's super confusing, but we don't want consumers to feel like they have to get a PhD in egg science to, keep shopping in the egg aisle at the grocery store. So our whole emphasis is on how do you create an environment where they can learn easily, how it's accessible, how it's memorable. So we try to have a lot of sense of humor in what we do. I mean, it's eggs, right? So
Yeah.
it's fun and chickens are fun and eggs are delicious. So let's not all be so serious. Let's just talk about what is exactly the difference and why it's important to the consumer.
Yeah, and I think you guys do a great job of making, and we'll talk just a little bit if you don't mind about your packaging, because I think it's such a major component of the brand or the several brands that you have. Because it's friendly and it's playful and it does feel different than other egg packaging. Even the brands that are trying to copy you don't feel the way you feel. And there's a little bit of joy in your packaging.
Mhm.
And how big the word organic is and how simple and fun you all make it. And that's really smart. It goes all the way through your website and everything you do. So you have a couple different brands. You have the main organic brand and then I think pasture raised, and then of course the Nelly sort of sister brand. Can you sort of just unpack your thoughts about how you made sure those look and feel so different?
Right. Yeah, so we do have two different brands. We have Pete and Gerry's and Nellie's Free Range. When we look at the egg consumer, the premium egg consumer, we identified 3 to 4 very distinct customer segments that all sort of buy in the premium egg space, but are slightly different in how they make their decisions. So the free range consumer really is sort of that mom who wants to check all the boxes, who thinks about value. She thinks about hen welfare. She thinks about companies that do what they say they do. She thinks about taste and quality and feeding her family on a budget. And so for her, Nellie's is a perfect target, right? Because it's a perfect solution because it's family oriented, it's inclusive,
Yeah.
it's whimsical. We don't lean as much into sort of the kooky humor side on Nellie's, but it's
Yeah,
a
you
little more
don't.
of family friendly. If you flip open the what we call the in lid, the inside of the package, there's different variations. Sometimes it's hen puns, sometimes it's hen dad jokes, sometimes it's our free range vibes music playlist. So it's very much engaging, kind of like when you were a kid and read the back of the cereal box. This is like a way to entertain your kid when you're making breakfast. And so that is very much how we thought about Nellie's and the little girl on the package and the purple color. It's all just very intentional
Yeah.
on our part to attract that consumer and keep her close to the family. For the organic buyer, that's what matters is the word organic. That's why
Yeah.
it's written in such big letters on our
Yeah. You
carton.
can't miss it. It's a really bold choice for the
Yeah, and
packaging.
and what she does is she equates that with just health. It's health and wellness. It's putting no gunk stuff in my body. It's very much a shortcut. And so the Pete and Gerry's packaging tends to be just a little bit more emphasis on the farm. You see a farmer feeding a hen,
Yeah.
the organic feed. It is, large letters. Our Pete and Gerry's brand we try to make it just a little bit more kind of offbeat
Yeah.
humor just to create some space there. And it's a point where we really want people to sort of say, organic eggs can be funny and hens are funny and the whole experience is kind of funny. So we use a lot of sort of jokes and kind of ironic references
Yeah.
in the copy that we create. But that's very much and the navy is sort of our heritage color. So, we started as a small family farm in New Hampshire. So it's a sort of callback to that heritage. Pasture raised, that consumer, we call her Heather the hen hugger. She just cares about animals a lot. And she can cite to you each pasture raised hen gets 108 square feet
Yeah.
per hen outdoors.
They
She
know.
knows those statistics. And so it's also it sort of recalls bright, sunny and pastures so that the carton is bright yellow
Yeah.
and it says 108 square feet on it. And it's very much speaking to her. And it has in very big letters, to your point, pasture raised, because that is what she knows. And so, and we're just about to launch a new one, pasture raised organic.
Nice.
That will have, again, big letters, pasture organic. It's going to be a sky blue color. So it will very much look like, what it is to be pasture raised organic under sunny blue skies. So we're excited about, this family
Yeah.
of products underneath the Pete and Gerry's brand.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't know Nellie's was one of your brands up until prepping for this episode, but I have purchased it. And I've actually
Good.
bought all your products at different times. And what was
Yeah.
interesting is I was on vacation. They didn't have Pete and Jerry's. I'm used to buying the organic. I think I respond to the packaging exactly the way you intended. I'm certainly a premium egg buyer. And
Awesome.
I was on vacation. I saw the Nellies and I was like, well, I can't find Pete and Jerry's for whatever reason. I think they were sold out. And I was like, this feels good. I mean, I'm on vacation. I'm just having a good time. I was like, oh, I like this. This is kind of fun. And I bought that. And then, when I eventually figured out that was also you all, my respect for how good you all are at this, it went up even more.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. We are working to create some more linkage between the two brands. There's some small subtle cues.
Yeah.
It does have a Pete and Jerry's family brand
Yep.
stamp on
I
the
figured that
card.
out after having it in our condo for a few days. I was like, wait a second, this is the same brand.
Yeah, and it does have the healthy hens, healthy eggs, healthy planet, which
Yeah.
is our sort of tag across both brands. I think what we've learned about this consumer, and you are a good example of that, is that once they start buying in the premium space, the free range and pasture
Uh-huh.
raised space, they stay there. It's a very sticky category.
It is.
Now, our goal is to keep them in our brand family. So we'd like them to stay not just in premium, but in Pete and Jerry's and Nellie's. And so that's why we're trying to place more emphasis on the linkage between the two.
Yeah. That's the organic and sort of mission first brands in the CPG space, I think are fascinating. We worked with a few. We actually worked with, I think they're now the top organic chicken brand, Farmer Focus,
Uh-huh.
and out of the Shenandoah Valley. And it's interesting because there are some parallels, of course, with chicken eggs, and it's just a really interesting space because the consumers that are attracted to products like Pete and Jerry's are really passionate about health and
For
about
sure.
about what they're putting in their bodies and how they're feeding their families. So, if you understand how to speak directly to these consumers, it can be really powerful.
Yeah, it's what's so exasperating about the term cage free for us. And
Yeah.
that's why, for Nellie's, our number one message is that cage free hens do not go outside. Free range hens go outdoors, roam in the pastures, frolic in the sunshine. And we do it very deliberately because it is the number one confusion point for consumers is the definition of cage free. They don't go outside. They're not in cages, but they're still confined to very crowded structures.
Yeah, there's a lot of um, I don't know, lack of authenticity or in the space. And,
Mhm.
with you all being a B Corp and being truly authentic, what do besides the cage free thing, what other things are you seeing that other brands will do that you all won't?
Wow. Well, we don't put farm fresh on our packaging. It doesn't mean
No,
anything.
it does.
Or the word fresh. I mean, what else would an egg be if
Yeah,
it's not fresh? It's funny that consumers actually do care about freshness, but the term itself doesn't mean anything. Um, we don't talk a lot about just sort of overemphasizing the vitamins and the nutrients on the front because
yeah,
all eggs have a very similar vitamin and nutrient profile, and protein profile for that matter. So we do talk about it relative to other snacks or things that people can eat. But relative to other egg companies, there's no difference in terms of the protein profile or the nutrient and vitamin profile for the most part. Um, the other thing is we don't try to be exclusive. We don't try to make it seem like, God forbid you have to buy something other than a premium egg. We're
yeah,
very open tent. We want to invite people in. We have the largest selection of premium egg types and of all premium egg companies out there. So we very much want, no matter where the consumer is in their egg buying journey, in their premium egg buying journey, we want to have an option for them and welcome people into it. And so all of our language, all of our messaging, all of the content that we put out on social media, it's all about open arms and embracing and welcoming people in and making people realize that, it's a very accessible premium luxury for people to have.
yeah. And I have to say, I think if someone asked me what Pete and Jerry's, what the general vibe of your product is, I would actually say welcoming because it
Oh, thank
makes it easy to make the choice. Being a brand marketer, I think about this stuff, but a lot of times when I'm shopping, I'm just a person. I'm out making these choices unconsciously and emotionally. And people really do buy everything from premium eggs to literally anything emotionally.
you. Hmm.
And I think you all have done such a good job of being like really accurate with what you do for the people who research and care about all things, but also welcoming to people who are just starting to get interested and might not even know what organic means or
Yeah,
why it should matter to them.
right. Yeah, so we refer to it as education. It is a core part. I'm full of egg puns,
Good
Steve.
pun.
So um,
I like that
and
one.
we it is a priority for everything that we do. We know that particularly in the store, right?
Yeah.
Because they're faced with this sea of, the egg aisle is becoming the cereal aisle in some
Yes.
ways, and people are trying to sort of navigate it and discern what's the difference. And we know that consumers, even though there have many, many touch points from a marketing perspective and inputs along their sort of path to purchase, they still roughly make 60 to 70% of the decision is made at shelf.
Yeah.
And so how do you capture them at shelf? Packaging, yes, we try really hard to stand out and really pull them in. But one of the initiatives we took on this year was what we call in-store signage and through our education program. And so we've created these brand agnostic signs that do very simple definitions of cage-free, free-range,
That's so
pasture-raised
smart.
egg. And the retail partners can place them above the egg set or even on the shelf strip and just do a quick education so people can read them. Now, granted, there's probably some subtle hints and hues of color that
Well,
that
good.
reflect back to our brands,
Well, that's
but
smart.
so they're not totally
Yeah.
altruistic.
Yeah, but
But that is
what a great
the
program. What a smart move. Like because
thing.
an educated consumer, even if they're guided subtly, when they're at shelf, they're going to make a decision to buy the brand that feels the safest and the most friendly. And I think that's why Pete and Jerry's is such a great brand is you all are really, I mean, you're really focused on that and you're just delivering. So if anyone listening to this hasn't tried Pete and Jerry's eggs, I think we're doing a heck of a commercial for them right now. But I swear I eat them and they're great. So in a category like, premium eggs, um, what do you think the biggest opportunities for you all right now or the biggest threats are in CBG for a product like yours?
So I think the biggest opportunity is what we were just talking about, getting more and more people educated and understanding, and as much as we can, having a very big megaphone about what it means to be a premium egg and why it's on a on a sort of per gram basis, one of the best forms of protein that people can get. So not only getting people to shift over to consuming more eggs, but then to shift up to premium and then to shift into our brands. Like those are the opportunities. And
Yeah.
it sounds like a lot of steps, but I think, that's why we talk about all the things that are important about eggs, that they're healthy, that they're high in protein, that they are nutritious. That starts getting people sort of consuming more eggs, and they're versatile. You don't just have to have them for breakfast, where you can use them in all sorts of things
Yeah.
for lunches and dinners and snacks. So that's one. I think the premium category, sort of getting people to truly understand why free range and pasture raised and organic is the way to go, and how important it is for animal welfare and small family farms, and what our sort of protection levels are relative to even what's going on right now with, or mostly the beginning of the year with avian influenza.
Yeah.
So that, and then our brands, the fact that what we're trying to do is provide that broad spectrum of choice and premium, and have some fun with the topic as well. We have some great recipes on our website or things that we post on our social media platforms, just to really get people to sort of relate to us
Yeah.
on a daily basis.
I think it's
So,
really great to see brands like yours educating people. I mean, especially with eggs, it's one of the cleanest, most affordable, honestly, sources of
mhm,
protein you can get, and versatile.
absolutely.
So
Yep.
I love seeing people learn more, because over time there was so much misperception about cholesterol and eggs and all these different things, that it's really nice to see you all using education. How do you look at, you have such a clear brand story from my point of view for each product and for Pete and Jerry's, writ large. But how do you evolve those brand stories over time so that you can continue to reach a new audience or keep reaching the one that you have?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, we're still haven't tapped into the full household penetration, even
Yeah.
though 95% of households buy eggs. We're certainly not at that level of household penetration. So there's still room to grow. And I think it's just continuing to find ways to connect to more and more consumers, to get the message out, find ways to access them where they are showing up. We do a lot of research, a lot of analytics to understand where our consumers are consuming,
Yeah.
whether it's they're consuming content, or, whether they're part of community groups, which social media platforms they're on, which type of media do they consume. And so really trying to find ways to reach them with both clever, memorable, but also educational content. So it's really that's really how we're continuing to evolve, is just to be more creative and more sort of agile, if you will, in
Yeah.
terms of where to show up and how to show up. I think that launching the Pete and Jerry's organic pasture raised is another way to evolve, is sort of continuing that sort of spectrum of choices and having more egg types for people to choose from, and really just having a close partnership with our retail customers to make sure that there's a presence on shelf and it's easy to navigate. We do a lot of work with our retail partners in terms of merchandising the shelf set and
So
knowing
important.
how people are shopping so that you can help them find you on the shelf.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things I think that we're thinking about from an evolution perspective.
That's great. Well, keep going. I mean, you guys are doing amazing work. So, one question I wanted to make sure I asked you, and then I just have some sort of like closing, more fun questions just about being a marketer. And, I just really admire your work, and your background and loyalty just made me want to ask this question. What is the one thing that you wish marketers understood more clearly about loyalty?
I think it's that you build loyalty on things other than discounts. To me, I think it's such an easy lever. I mean, you see it all the
You
time,
do.
right? In terms of the lower funnel, upper funnel debate, and, the near term versus long term brand building and all of that. But too much loyalty, whether it is formal programs like loyalty clubs and loyalty programs, or even just informal loyalty driving efforts, rely too heavily on sort of a price transaction, as opposed to truly understanding what it is and why consumers make the choices they make, and then building out rewards and recognition and experiences that solidify that loyalty over
Mm.
time.
That's what a great answer. Thank you. I mean, loyalty is so much more emotional than it is transactional.
Yeah. And the connection between loyalty and brand are so important. I think that, the worst thing you can do when you're trying to achieve loyalty is to do something that's off brand, because over time you're just eroding the brand equity, and you're going to start to have to fight even harder and dig yourself out of a hole to get that consumer back.
So true. That's such a thank you. That's such a great answer. I hope any marketer listening, and we have an awful lot to listen to our podcast, really takes that to heart. So let me ask you just some closing questions. It's been such a joy to talk to you today. I really appreciate you making the time.
Yeah.
Um,
I appreciate it too.
yeah, it's been so much fun. As a marketer, marketers take a lot of risks. You have to try some things; they don't always work. Where's the line between fear and adventure for you?
Gosh. Um, You know, it's so funny. I used to say this in consulting, whenever people would get really nervous about things or whether you make strategy moves. And I would always say to me, my gosh, we're not solving world hunger. These are eggs or these are beverages or whatever. I mean, in some cases we actually were, but but I think for me, um, it, I think it's knowing how to whether it's budget related and allocating a certain amount of money to a new channel or a new approach, or whether it's just even creative and how far do you want to push it. I think it's putting in place a set of parameters or checklist, if you will, that says, is it on brand? Is it something that's going to resonate with our consumer? Is it something that's not going to completely blow our entire budget? Is it something we're going to learn from quickly so
Yeah,
that if it does work, we can even double down on it or pull back if it doesn't work? I mean, it's not to me, that's not super scientific, but it's just making sure you're sort of asking yourself all of those questions before you take the leap. I mean, with our Pete and Gerry's pasture raised launch, which was in 2023, we pushed pretty hard on the envelope of being a little silly. We did a campaign called "Almost the Wildest Eggs You Can Find," or you can buy, and we had this fun image of this couple. They were preparing a meal, and there's the moment where the wife says, "These are almost the wildest eggs you can buy," and there's sort of this record scratch moment. Well, what do you mean by that? And it immediately cuts to this sort of wild woman being chased by an ostrich because she's trying to steal ostrich eggs, or another woman in a tree is trying to steal eagle eggs, or another person who's in an alligator swamp who's trying to steal their eggs. And so it's a little bit crazy and
yeah,
nutty, but very memorable. And then it ends with, "Oh, no, I think I'll just stick with Pete and Gerry's." And it's sort of meant to we pushed pretty hard on the envelope of eggs, but what it did is it sort of knocked people into realizing, like, what does pasture raised mean? It's almost the wildest. They're out there. These are
yeah.
like what hens are wild birds. So, can you get something like that? And I think that's sort of, we were all a little bit nervous with
Of
pushing on
course,
that
it's a
one.
risk. Yeah,
But at the end of the day, it was very much on brand. We tend to be a little kooky and a little bit offbeat humor with Pete and Gerry's. It made people understand what pasture raised meant. It broke through a category that, we hadn't entered yet. And it gave us the ability to sort of test it and then roll it out on a larger scale basis when we saw that it was working.
yeah. Good for you all. And I think you know, a lot of brands get paralyzed by analysis and having to have it work or you need to work. And then they argue themselves into a box or they get really conservative and
Yeah.
don't take those kind of risks. So I
Well,
always
and
love, go
in the
ahead.
CPG space, things move quickly,
They
right?
do. Yeah.
Things move quickly, people move quickly, decisions are made. So you don't have a lot of time to sit back and overanalyze and spend months saying, should we do this? Should we not do this? And
Yeah.
so, it's important to be able to pivot, stay agile, and move to things, but then also move away from them if you need to.
Yeah, and to be decisive and take those calculated risks, because the brands that don't usually succeed. So I think that's really cool that you all are out there trying different things and pushing the envelope like you are. Let me ask you just two more questions, and I'll let you go. With your switch from McKinsey, and I know now you've been the CMO of Pete and Gerry's a while, what would you call this chapter of your life?
Gosh. I would probably call this chapter of my life joy. I mean, if I had to put one word on it, it has been every aspect of it has been such a pleasure, whether it's learning the egg space, which is, as you can tell, I've become a complete egg nerd,
Yeah,
and
right.
I love it. It's fascinating. I think the people that I've been able to work with at Pete and Gerry's are just such good souls and so committed to our purpose and our mission. And just the marketing is sort of the renaissance right now. There's just so much going on. And I know it sounds a little self-serving to us as marketers to
Yeah,
say
but
it's
it's
so
fun.
much, but it's true. I think that, of every discipline, it's the one that's had the most to prove, right? Because everybody was like, well, the marketing really work. And that's stupid old saying about 50% doesn't, you can't measure 50%. It's not true anymore. And we can measure it. And there have been so many technologies and approaches and things like that that are just rapidly changing. And so it's just a really exciting time to be in marketing. And, eggs are having a moment as well. So
Yeah.
it's just like it been a perfect intersection in some ways for me.
Yeah. And what a great place to bring all your experience. I think it's like an amazing fit that, you ended up at Pete and Jerry's. I think that's so cool. So last question, and I'll let you go. What advice would you give your younger self from this moment in your life? What would you go back and tell your younger self?
I used to say like, "Oh, don't spend so much time in consulting," but I would probably say but everything happened for a reason. I ended up at Pete& and Gerry's, which is, if I hadn't stuck around for 30 years, I may not have been the right time gotten there. But, I would say that, I like to say you have to earn your confidence, and the only way you can earn your confidence is by pushing yourself out of your comfort zone periodically. And, I think I would say when those times happened where you had to step out of the comfort zone and try something new, whether it was even in the early days of consulting and making a presentation to, now just the kinds of things that we do at P and Jerry's, I would say just push yourself. Do it. It's worth it. You at the time it feels awful potentially, but it's very much worth it. And each step you get more and more confident. You get more and more belief in the decisions that you make and more ability to just feel good about what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, that's great advice for any young marketer out there listening to this episode. And thank you so much for all your perspective today. I think your years of consulting really paid off. It's a difficult job at times, but you learn a lot about a lot of different brands and a lot of different situations. And obviously, that set you up for the success that you all are having now. So, congratulations on that,
Well,
on
thank
ending up
you.
at Pete and Jerry's, and keep it up. I mean, it's an incredible brand and good for you all.
Yeah, we're excited about what's ahead and we couldn't appreciate this conversation more. Thank you.
Yeah, I had a blast talking with you, and thank you so much for being on the show.
Absolutely.
Want to hear more inspiring stories? Subscribe on your preferred podcast app so you don't miss an episode. And if you like what we're doing, please rate, review, and share. It's the best way to support us. Thank you for listening to Brand Story.